It's Christmas Eve, so Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all of you. Now I'm just about done decorating, but are some of you still hanging those ornaments and stringing those lights? Well, that system is so slow and antiquated. So this holiday season, I'm going to show you all how to decorate like a gearhead with your very own, Christmazooka. But I still have a few little last minute holes that need decking and bells that need jingling. So I gotta get to it. Done. So I've been so busy working on these guys over there that it turns out Christmas is just around the corner, and I've done exactly this much decorating, as in zero, nada. So while the average person would be getting their hustle on, throwing up some lights, get those little snowmen, reindeers, and Santas out pronto and prominently on display, as a gearhead, I wonder, is there something I can build that would make the process go so much faster? So to get a Christmas party going here, we're going to be building a pneumatic spud gun, kind of a miniaturized version of a potato gun. So this is going to serve as our air chamber. This is 2-inch diameter PVC piping because we're only going to be blowing out confetti, tinsel, and other small decorative items. We don't need anything too crazy here. And you want to make sure that the PSI rating is going to be sufficient for your application. In ours, that's way more than enough. We're only going to go probably no more than 20 PSI here. Also, you want to make sure you're working with Schedule 40 PVC piping. That's different than DWV. This is made to handle pressure. So I have two lengths here. One of them, it gives us more than enough to cut. I do have a tendency to measure once and perhaps cut multiple times. So I always like to have a little extra on hand. Next, I got two lengths to handle our barrel. I'm not quite sure how long I'm going to make this yet, but same thing, you want to make sure all of the pieces you're working with, even the elbows and the couplers, are all Schedule 40. I have two elbows here to give us our unique candy cane shape, along with an end cap, Teflon tape, and adapters so we can go from a 2-inch down to a 1-inch. Now, connecting your air chamber and your barrel, well, you need some kind of air mechanism to release that pressurized air. So if you're a beginner and you've never built one of these guns before, I like to go with your typical ball valve. Now this is really inexpensive, just a couple bucks. You can see it partially open there. So all you would do is turn this really quickly and the air would escape and push the confetti down the barrel. But I can't turn these things, as fast as what I can get a electric sprinkler valve to work. So I'm going to show you how to modify one of these to work with your average blowgun. And this allows the air to escape much faster, much more effortlessly than a ball valve. Of course, our PVC cement, this has got to dry for 24 hours. That's hugely important. And we have our male threaded 1-inch couplers to fit our sprinkler valve. So I think we have everything we need to get started, and we'll just kind of make it up along the way. This is what I got lying around, so I like to use that stuff up first. So first I'm going to start with our air chamber portion, which means all this other stuff can move aside for now, except our elbows here. And I was able to find these cool, gentle curves because what you don't want are those sharp 90-degree angles. This is just my automotive side taking over for automotive exhausts, and you always want a straight shot. But we also want to preserve our candy cane shape. Normally I would do a straight gun, but this one's special. It's holiday special. So let's put that together. And I'm thinking for an air chamber, I don't see us needing any more than 2 feet. And even that's too much. So I'm thinking maybe a foot and a half at the most. So because this is curved and I've had them lying around, I'm not quite sure their dimensions. So I'm just gonna take this piece of string here and we're gonna ballpark this. This doesn't have to be exact. And that's about right. Good enough. And let's match this up. And we can see that's right around 10. I'm gonna call it 10, just to make it simple for us. So that's 10 of our inches. And if we want our classic shape here, you can already see this thing's looking like a candy cane now. But I think I still need a little bit of length on this side just to complete the look. And of course, this air chamber is way too big. So if we're calling it 10 from here to here, maybe we can go 3 here and maybe I would say 2 here, because with the end cap, I think we're gonna have a pretty complete candy cane. So let's get to cutting. Now to cut this, a regular old hacksaw will do. If you have an air tool, great for you, but we're going old-fashioned on this. And your cuts don't have to be super, super straight. This is probably the most ballpark project we're doing. I got a file here, and we can just file it down just a little bit, just to give our jagged edges a little bit smooth. Although that's not hugely important for this project. All right, let's see how that's gonna match up. And that is perfect. With our end cap, check that out. So we got a good portion of our candy cane going here. And let's do the rest of it. Basically, I'm going to repeat that cutting job over again. And I forget what we said. Was it 2 or was it 3? We'll go with 2. So that's going to make a total of 15. Nice odd number. Awesome. And I think we got through measuring once and cutting once, so that's great. No miscutting episodes just yet, but I'm not gonna celebrate. They do happen. Looking pretty good. All right. So we got our U. I say before we go any further, maybe we should start by modifying our sprinkler valve. Now this is a fun part. This is actually pretty easy to do. All right, so moving these things aside a little, especially this. Yeah, we can get rid of this here for a while. And let me go ahead and clean this off. Nothing to see here. Nice clean IKEA computer desk that I've had for quite a while, but it's made quite a great work table. So there we go. So sprinkler valves, right back to where we were. And I'm just gonna go ahead and remove this solenoid. It just twists off. So that's the first part of our modification here. So not too bad so far. So far, pretty easy. And what we're gonna do is remove the top portion of our sprinkler valve, just a couple screws. I am one size under what I need, of course, but we're gonna keep going. This is called the leftovers episode. Basically what we got lying around, we're just going with it. And it's like the end of the year, and well, my toolbox is about as organized as the $5 DVD bin at Walmart right now. So I'm grabbing whatever I can out of the toolbox. If it's visible, it's getting grabbed. So with that out of the way, sometimes you need a little bit of a screwdriver here. Let's see if we can pry this off, the top off. There we go. Got a little spring here, and it sits atop our sprinkler valve. So we're gonna go ahead and keep these insides here as is and take this bladder out here, pull that off gently. All right, so we're gonna put these things aside. and we're not really going to have to do much with this bottom portion. It is all in the cap. So all we're going to be doing is drilling a hole right through the center so it goes right through here, and our nipple is going to attach that way, so that way we can attach our blowgun. I'm going to try and find a block of wood so that way I don't damage my fine particle board here, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back, and I found our piece of wood here. The word spoke to me, so I picked it. I'm go ahead and put this. Now you can see it's got like a little nub there. So because of that, I'm going to put it on our board just like this. And get our trusty drill. So I guess I'll get started. And of course I am missing the size I need. It's kind of like that 10 millimeter, and you mechanics will know what I'm talking about. That 10 millimeter always likes to walk off. So we'll just start with this. So there is our hole. It's mostly center, so it's gonna work for us. So I'm probably gonna have to widen that just a little bit to be able to fit our nipple. So I'm gonna work on widening that. You guys get a drink and meet me. So that's pretty centered right there. Started a little bit off to the side, but I was able to move it as I stepped up my drill. So in this hole now, we're going to go ahead and thread our nipple here, or our brass fitting. I've heard it called a couple things: adapter, brass fitting, nipple. You pick your term. And so we're going to cover this with Teflon tape, but I just want to make sure that it fits in. It actually screws in. If you want to go ahead and thread this, be my guest. I find it's much easier to use Teflon tape and then just a little bit of epoxy to secure it in place. And there we have it. Now there's one more thing we have to modify on this lid, and if you look here, there's a little hole, and air can get through this hole and into our solenoid area, and it can escape out. Well, we've got to block that as well. We want this chamber to be completely airtight inside this inner circle right here. You want to make sure you keep epoxy out of this area, but I'm going to throw some epoxy right in that circle, or right in that little hole there. Pretty good. I don't want to mess with it too much and get epoxy where it doesn't belong. So I'm going to put this aside and let this dry for 24 hours, and then we'll come back to mounting our blowgun assembly to our lid. So for now, it can just rest right there along with all the other bits that I'm going to need. So with that out of the way, I think we've got the air chamber done. The sprinkler pretty much well modified. I would say that's 90% done. So let's move on to the barrel. And for the barrel, I think I'm going to use an entire piece at first. Now, if we all remember spud gun technology here, the longer your barrel, the more accurate your aim, but also you pay for that a little bit because your projectile will slow down as it travels down the tube. So it's a little bit of a trial and error to get it right. I think I'll start with this full length, and we can always cut down from there. So with that said, the barrel is going to connect to our sprinkler valve here. So it's a threaded end here, threaded female end. So I need a threaded male end, and we're going to put some Teflon tape on there and screw this in just like that. And then our barrel will come out that way, and then we'll have the rest of our air chamber here. So the first thing you're going to notice is, okay, so we got the barrel pretty much squared away, but the air chamber, I mean, how is it, going to connect? So in order to bridge this gap, I went ahead and got this coupler, or this adapter. So you can see that on this end, this is a 2-inch diameter, but on the other end, out pops a 1-inch diameter to go ahead and meet up with our sprinkler valve. And what I'll do is use the extra length of a 1-inch pipe to bridge this gap right here, and that's gonna go right into our threaded male end. our threaded male end here. And that should do it. That'll go in like that, little piece. And I think we have it there. So let me cut that little piece. I think I'm gonna start with 4 inches and see how that works. Now I'm gonna bring back out my little rickety saw. And rickety saw is eyeing up my fingers. It's like, delicious. So I'm just gonna mock this up real quick. No Teflon tape, no nothing. Let's just make sure everything fits before I start cementing everything down for real. So, male threaded end on the other side. And on your sprinkler, it's kind of tough to see, you know, in the camera. Maybe I can hold it up real close to you guys. There is actually an arrow, directional arrows. This is actually pointing forward, so you know the air is gonna go that way. Hence, we've got our barrel on this end right there. So this is our joint piece right here. And we're gonna go ahead and put our coupler. And that is gonna connect with our air chamber. So this looks good. I think what I'm gonna end up doing now is start our PVC cement, but there is one more thing we have to do to the air chamber, because if you really think about it, well, we gotta get air in here, right? So how are we gonna do that? And there's a couple different ways. So I have this tire valve here, and you can use a regular old bike pump to pump it up. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and put this right in our end cap, drill a hole right there and put that in. Looks even better than the one we did on the sprinkler valve. So let's see if we got the size about right. Where did our tire valve go? Oh, right here, it's hiding. And cool, I think that's gonna work out pretty perfectly. So I'm just gonna give our primer and our cement a little shake. Shake, shake, shake. All right. So I'm going to start with the purple stuff. That's our primer. Then we're going to follow that up with our cement. And what we want to do is just give it a quarter turn. So pop it together. I like to give it a good tap and then turn it a quarter turn, just so it smears really well and you get a nice tight bond. So that's that portion, and now we're going to progressively start making this bigger and bigger and bigger. So same thing. Turn, smoosh it real well, and give it a tap. Especially with these couplers, I like them to sit very flush, and if you look down into the ridge there, you can see it's touching the ridge. So we're good there, nice and flush. So continuing on, reposition in our orientation here, and into the sprinkler. So I have my air chamber all cemented in. We have our sprinkler valve, pretty much I would say 90% modified. I'm just letting that lid dry, and we'll wrap that up tomorrow. And we have our barrel here done. On second thought, I may end up cutting it just a little bit short, but we'll see how it goes after a couple test fires. So this is the most important part. You definitely want this to dry and cure for about 24 hours. Don't cut corners here like we've done with some of the tools. But the last thing you want is for this thing to be coming apart on you or leaking air. So you definitely want to make sure you have tight air gaps. And we're going to test this out tomorrow too. Listen for air, feel for air, see if we're losing pressure anywhere along the way. So catch you tomorrow. Get some good sleep. You're going to need it. Lots of action. Welcome back. It's day 2 of the Christmas-zuka build. And if you take a closer look overnight here, our PVC cement has gone ahead and dried over the past 24 hours. Everything is looking good. And if we take a look at our cap here, we can see that the epoxy glue is also nice and dry. So now we can start reassembling the sprinkler valve together along with these interior components that came with it. And the most important part, our blowgun trigger along with our fitting. And then I think it looks like it's about time to start firing this thing, start getting our Christmas on here. So the only part of your sprinkler valve that you're not going to be reusing is the solenoid. So you can get rid of that. And by get rid, I mean don't throw it away. I'm pretty sure I can find something else for this. This will be for a future project for sure. And these go back together pretty simply. Let me just clear some space here. And so we have our base. And all we're going to do is use our lid here, some Teflon tape. Going to tape this around here as nice and tight as we can. And all we're going to do is thread it through the top as best we can here. I may have to run back to the toolbox and get a little wrench. I like these with the little hex, so that way you can get it down nice and tight. You don't want it all the way in there. What you want to do is mount it so that way it's flush with the lid. And I'll give you a closer look up here. You can just see the gold of our fitting poking through there. So you don't want to continue turning and have it start coming through the hole. You just want it flush there. So that looks pretty good. I might give it just one more turn here, just for safekeeping. So if you get leaks, one of the areas you're probably going to see the leak is this connection right here. It doesn't happen all the time. This looks pretty snug, but we'll throw some epoxy on there if we find we have to after some of our test shoots. So next, as you may have guessed, we are now Tefloning the other end. I just created a verb there. We're Tefloning. So now we're going to try and thread this in here, because this is going to be the front of the gun. So I'm going to want my trigger to kind of be like that. I think it's a little awkward to use your thumb and kind of backwards fires if I'm firing right at you. So I'm going to do it this way, and this is a little bit awkward, but I guess it's kind of like a thumb holder and you can fire that way. So I'm going to leave that there. That looks pretty snug, and all we're going to do now is reassemble. So we got our base here, and we have to remember our bladder, and this is how these things work. This is kind of a valve that moves up and down, creating differences of air pressure from the top and the bottom. Can't forget our spring here, and then this is the part where sometimes it feels like you need 3 hands by the time you put the spring on. But let's see if I can do this one-handed here. I say we start assembling. Can't wait to fire this thing. But you know what? It kind of occurs to me that, okay, so we're going to go around Christmasing everything. I mean, getting everything in the holiday spirit. And I'm the kind of person where I like to lead by example. And while this, great, we kind of worked out a kind of creative candy cane shape, it kind of seems like, we could have put a little more effort into this. So, I mean, we can't be Christmasizing things with a tool that is completely devoid of Christmas itself. So let's add a little spirit into this. I'll show you what I mean. All right, so I got sponge and some leftover paint that I found. And I figured for such a fun, kind of just seasonal, temporary project, I'm not too concerned about, oh my gosh, the paint has to adhere and last for years and years and years like we want our automotive paint to last. So this is just for some fun. And I'm gonna grab me some tape so I can protect our threaded surfaces here. We definitely don't want any paint getting on that, because then if we have an uneven seal, then we're gonna have to deal with leaks. So I'm gonna start with some white, and I think you're kind of getting the theme here, a little candy cane theme. So red and white stripes sounds good to me. So that's a good first coat. I went a little more generous than I normally do for this stuff, but we're in a hurry. We all know Santa, he is one punctual dude, so we don't have time to mess around. So I'm gonna give this some time to dry and work on another project. It's way more fun than watching it. It looks like I got pretty good coverage here with this white base coat, just a few coats, but we are missing that signature red striping that the candy canes have. But if you look at the surface, we have some raised edges because of all the pieces that we put together, and trying to mask off with all these ridges in the way is going to be a little complex. So instead, I think I'm going to simplify this a little bit and use some of these natural raised areas of the piping as my red. So this is how our red areas are gonna be. Where you see white, they're gonna end up being red. So that's gonna look good. Let me get our barrel done here. So this is our final result. Let's paint it up. Looking good. I love this red, nice gloss pop. So I'm just gonna sprinkle what's left of this glitter paint just to offset some of the badassery. It's a necessary step, I promise. Pretty happy with the way this came out. Check it out, just like I envisioned. All things considering some of the questionable aged paint that I used. After all, we're not going for looks here. We got to get our deck the halls on prontissimo. All right, now the paint may have changed the diameter of our hole, but I think we can negotiate it to fit. So there we have it, nice and gold to kind of complement our festivities here. And let's get this sprinkler valve hooked up. And again, I'm just gonna look at the direction of the arrow. And we are going this way, just like the trigger. towards the end. Just a quarter turn more. So there we go. I figured I'd mount the trigger on the bottom here, so that way, flip side, it would have been kind of in a way of our air mechanism here where we're gonna fill the air. So everything's out of the way, looking good. Now for the barrel. I'm going to hold this in my lap, make this a little bit easier to turn. Sometimes it's a full body effort that's required. There we go, here it is, our completed, you can call it Christmasizer, tinselizer, I like to call it the Christmazooka. So let's jingle some bells and get our deck the halls on. So I managed to fire off a couple test rounds and I have some results to share with you. For my size air chamber, I found that 20 PSI worked the best. If yours is different, it's always a good idea to start low and then work your way up until you find the pressure that works best for you. And you're gonna know when you're getting close because it starts to get really tough to pump. And you notice that my tire pump had a pressure gauge on it. If yours does not, make sure you mount one to the side of your air chamber here. And then of course there are the safety precautions. I know, boo, safety, boring, but we'll get through them really quick. Obviously, number one, don't fire at any people or pets or other animals. I know it's just confetti, but getting hit in the face at high velocity with a ball of tinsel is a lot like rubbing sandpaper all over it. And you definitely don't want to get it in anybody's eyes. And second, while using your Christmazooka, make sure to listen for any funny noises like any cracking in your PVC piping or hissing so you know you have an air leak somewhere. So take a moment to just re-inspect everything. You shouldn't have anything loose. None of these pieces should be loose. If your PVC cement dried properly, this shouldn't be a problem. Nothing loose with your trigger mechanism either. And after a full inspection and fix up, well, let the decorating continue. Now I know some of you leave milk and cookies for Santa, but this year I got some serious car parts on my list, so I'm stepping up my game for him. I'm going cheese, wine, and crackers, but there's no way I can serve him that in such a drab box. So let's spice this up. Now Darth Vader over there, he's like the opposite of Christmas. But can you blame the guy? I mean, this guy's had a tough go at it for a while. The Death Star blew up, his own kids didn't want to join in on his dark side reindeer games. So I say we bring cheer to this force. Well, my decorating is complete and I hope yours is too. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and have a Happy New Year from one gearhead to all you gearheads out there. See you next year.